Studio Shift. Our heroes. Our heroes.
In dat middaguur van 12 tot 1 is elk van die 3 dagen van Studio Shift gereserveerd voor een held van In The Pocket die zijn zegje mag doen, waar we mee praten in dat uur. Goedemiddag, Sebastiaan van In The Pocket. Wat doe jij exact bij In The Pocket?
Ik ben productmanager bij In The Pocket. Mijn focus op machine learning. Dus ik werk dagelijks aan producten waar een bepaalde machine learning component in zit. En naast de gebruikelijke cross-competence profielen die we bij ons hebben, werk ik ook heel nauw samen met ML-engineers om bepaalde machine learning componenten in onze producten te bouwen.
Oké, je hebt gesproken met Rahim Daya. Waarom is hij een held? Waarom zit hij in onze Our Heroes?
Rahim Daya is productlead bij Pinterest. En binnen Pinterest is hij verantwoordelijk voor alle niet-Verenigde Staten-markten. Hij leidt daar de recommendation en search efforts voor. En hij is ook heel outspoken op vlak van machine learning product management. Dus dat sluit eigenlijk perfect aan bij mijn eigen ambities. Ja. En vandaar heb ik met hem een gesprekje gevoerd.
Oké, benieuwd, waar hebben jullie het allemaal over gehad?
In eerste instantie was ik zeer benieuwd hoe het discovery-werk bij Pinterest in zijn werk gaat op vlak van machine learning features. Concreet, hoe gaan ze om met innovatie? Hoe passen ze dat in hun dagelijkse werking? En hoe komen die innovaties uiteindelijk bij de eindgebruiker terecht via de productteams?
Yes, so I'm a product manager at Pinterest, leading our international efforts. And I've also been working to open our Toronto engineering office. I've spent the last 9 years as a product manager working with different machine learning teams. Okay. And currently working with the machine learning teams on improving recommendations and the overall product experience for the non-US market.
Okay.
And so I've had a lot of experience working with teams to help build better algorithms, better recommendation systems. And then I've also specialized quite a bit on the search side. So understanding and interpreting text that's input by users and turning that into successful usage of our product. I used to be an engineer before I was a product manager. And so that was an area where I got a lot of experience that I've been able to apply to my product management work. But made that transition 9 years ago. Okay. And then Pinterest, for people who don't know the product, Pinterest considers itself an inspiration company. And so we're really trying to help users do things for themselves. The focus of the Pinterest app is very much about you and yourself. So there's no sort of outward projection about what you're doing or how well you're doing or if things are exciting in your life. It's more about how can you make your life better and how can we bring inspiration to you so that you can have a more exciting and interesting life. And so that inspiration can come in the form of daily activities like cooking and fashion and beauty, or it can come through projects. And so very commonly people will use Pinterest to plan weddings, but also home improvement or decor projects or hobbies.
Okay. That's a great introduction. Thank you. Pinterest is very outspoken on their machine learning efforts, and being a machine learning product manager myself, I'm pretty interested in how the discovery work is taking place at Pinterest in regards to features that are fueled to machine learning. How do you find opportunities? How do you prioritize the research efforts that go into these machine learning features?
But there's a few ways that we go about the discovery process for trying to understand what to build from a machine learning perspective. We do engage in joint ventures with universities. So we regularly have speakers come in to talk to our machine learning teams. Okay. And we also have an applied sciences group that specifically just works primarily on research.
Okay.
that relates to the core product areas for our products. So as you can imagine, for Pinterest, since we use images so heavily, we have a lot of investment in image machine learning, and then also now more and more investing in the video. And so we're really prioritizing to figure out what is the best set of tools for those areas. Those areas aren't guided by product. They're primarily guided by where we're seeing innovation in the machine learning space, and where there's technologies that we can invest in that align with our products. And then as far as our internal investments go, we sort of split our investments into two directions. So the applied research team at the company primarily is looking at how do we build large new technologies and take advantage of new technologies in order to make improvements to things like recommendations or image understanding. And so they tend to be working more from a research perspective on things that you could think of this as things that could be commercialized but are not quite there yet. And they're generally building this. And so examples of this, if you go read the engineering blogs at Pinterest, are we've invested heavily in recommendation systems and graph systems. And there's some new technologies on graph understanding that help with recommendations that we've now incorporated into the product that have significantly improved recommendations. And we wouldn't have been able to do this without sort of research into that area. And then separately, we have machine learning engineers that are assigned to each of the sets of teams. And primarily these are on the recommendations teams or on the search team. And those teams are focused on taking existing technology that we have and then incrementally improving it. So making improvements to our recommendations, addressing certain bugs that we've identified, and then even suggesting new efficiency improvements that would allow us to make more powerful computations so that we can do larger sets of data, for example, or longer time series. Those are things that the local engineering machine learning teams are helping other teams with.
And so I understand that the machine learning engineers that work together with the product teams are more into the incremental improvements of these solutions. Can you tell me something about how these research activities are being matched with user problems that you spot? Is there a certain process that you use to match the two, match a potential research solution with a problem that a user could face for your product?
So generally that's driven by the product team and sometimes the engineering team through suggestions when we're going through our product work. And we're generally not driving the applied sciences team particularly to a specific problem. What I'll be doing as a product manager is looking at all of the challenges that we run into for our users and start to think up of, I wish I could figure out this piece of information, or I wish I could figure out this other piece of information because then I could greatly improve the recommendations. And then going and looking at what are the applied science or research level technologies and seeing if any of those can help us make connections in the data that would help us make better recommendations for our users. So an example could be simply, one of the things we've noticed is in fashion, a lot of people want to be able to identify not only color, which is a common way of understanding fashion, but also pattern or print. And pattern or print is not something that's actively labeled. So if you were to go to an H&M or a Zara, they'll tell you the size of the clothing. They'll generally tell you the predominant color of the clothing, but they tend not to label if it is a striped print, a solid print, like a heather. Those are all different types of clothing patterns. And this is something that we have the information for because we have the images. And so the I wish in this scenario is, I wish I could figure out what the pattern was, even though we're not getting that in the data from the website itself. And so this is where our applied sciences team can really go and say, well, we have image recognition technology, and we have the ability to lift information off of it. So would it be feasible to go identify pieces of clothing within the image and then go beyond that and identify different patterns on top of those pieces of clothing? And so that's where we're sort of bridging the gap. A lot of our applied sciences team is identifying, hey, we can identify pieces of clothing because they know fashion is important to us. And then we go back and say, okay, great. Now you can tell what the pants are. Can you lift off the pattern? Given these are the patterns that we care about. And so that's where we can kind of make the joint connection into something that's useful for a user.
Yeah. And is there a certain process that you have to go on and test these hypotheses or these novel technologies early on with the user in terms of desirability?
So primarily, this is something that varies between different product managers that work in recommendations. I feel strongly that we should not test the users directly. And that's mainly because in my sort of worldview of how users perceive our products, there's two sets of products. There's unconscious and conscious product functionality. And so when I say conscious, I mean that we're directly influencing how the user reacts based on prompts that we're giving to the user. So we may tell them to fill out a form so that we can gather more information about them, or we may give them a guide on how to use a specific functionality to train them to use it in a specific way. So those are conscious, where the user understands that they're doing things, and then they can give you feedback on, this is confusing about your explanation, this is confusing about how the page flow is. They can give you direct feedback. Then there's a lot of functionality that we create in products that what I would call unconscious functionality. And those are when we're changing user behavior without them perceiving those changes. And a large amount of user behavior change now is done through these unconscious processes. So the most common or well-known one is dark patterns, where people will actually manipulate parts of the functionality, like the colors of buttons or graying items out, in order to influence user behavior. Users don't perceive that behavior. And so they will have a much harder time understanding what is happening. And particularly in search, when I've worked with interviewing users, what I've found is the users don't perceive that there's been changes to the functionality of the product. And oftentimes they'll misattribute changes. And so when we've gone and surveyed, I've actually, there's been examples of surveys I've gone where we've changed rankings, for example, in search results, and asked people if they're finding the results more frequently, or they're finding the answers that they want more frequently. And we will get feedback that they're finding results that don't exist more frequently than the ones that do, in the sense that they're ascribing changes that never happened. And so I found that it's generally not useful. What is more useful is to go look at the data. So you'll have a hypothesis in a specific scenario, but you'll want to extend that out to the overall population, and then go look in the data to see if there's an actual change that occurs. And then based on those changes, you can actually see if the overall group of users is modifying behavior based on the changes you made in the product. And that's generally where I get most of my feedback.
So I imagine you also conduct A/B testing in regards to these different novel technologies or different models. So I assume you deploy a certain model to a group, and then another model maybe to another group, and see, or a control group, and see what the difference is in regards to, as opposed to asking these users, do you feel this product is now better or whatever than before? Because your assumption is that their own perception isn't always the right one.
Yes.
That's
so A/B testing is the primary way that we're going about evaluating this. We will also do some directional testing or correlation to see if we can see patterns within the data, but primarily A/B testing is how we're evaluating the changes.
And I assume you're again mainly talking about these incremental changes. Have you ever, for instance, when you're going into a very experimental route where certain features aren't available yet, go on about doing some type of testing in like Wizard of Oz testing, where you just want to see if it would be a desirable feature for the user, or do you feel that it's again the same question as before, that it's difficult to quantify it when you're speaking directly to users?
I mean, I will do both in those cases. So usually when we have a new feature, I'm looking in three directions. One is the interface itself will want to get direct feedback on. So are they able to input information or understand the user flow effectively? And so we'll usually have that piece heavily tested with our user experience team and actually talking directly to users. We'll also look at user feedback that comes back to try to create patterns within those. So if we hear the same thing over and over from our users, then we'll start to aggregate those into groupings. And there's some wonderful user feedback tools that try to use text processing to collect together people that are saying the same thing, so we can start to identify patterns within that data. Separately, I'll look at what our hypothesis is, and it's important with machine learning to always have a hypothesis of what you expect to occur, and then to evaluate that against the data. And so that's the most important test. So we'll actually see, do users react in the way that we design the product or not, and then why not? And then we'll also look for new patterns in the data that we didn't expect. And sometimes you'll create a new feature that doesn't work, but it has another desired effect that you want for your users, and then you can start to apply it in a different use.
Ik vind dat heel interessant wat Rahim Daya allemaal al vertelt. Sebastian, hoe verschilt dan de aanpak op vlak van user feedback verzamelen bij Pinterest met een gemiddeld machine learning project waar jullie mee geconfronteerd worden?
Ja, hij focust zich heel fel op de data. Hij is geen fan van individuele gebruikers te gaan interviewen. Maar hij wil liever naar de data gaan kijken. Maar ja, ook niet absurd voor een product als Pinterest. Een zeer established product. Die recommendation engines zijn al enorm performant. Ze hebben 500 miljoen maandelijkse actieve gebruikers. Dus zij hebben genoeg gebruikers om effectief op grote schaal zeer minuut kleine verschillen te gaan meten en daar ook conclusies uit te trekken. En dat is niet altijd de realiteit waar wij mee geconfronteerd worden. Vaak zitten wij in het begin van een fase, een machine learning project. En is de userbase ook veel kleiner. Dus dat is niet altijd, dat gaat niet altijd op voor de projecten waar wij op werken. Ja,
dat is dan een beetje wat dan gezegd wordt, kwalitatief en kwantitatief.
Ja,
dat is dan een beetje hoe het
ja, absoluut.
Rahim die heeft zelf ook een nummer gekozen voor vandaag. Notorious B.I.G.
Ja, hij heeft voor Hypnotize gekozen van Notorious B.I.G. En hij heeft daarbij vermeld: It's a song about confidence for me and believing in yourself. En wie ben ik om dat tegen te doen?
Heb ik hier ook al een paar keer gezegd deze week. Ben ik om hier iemand tegen te spreken, echt.
Studio Shift. Our heroes.
Come on. Ha, sicker than your average. Papa twist cabbage off instinct. Niggas don't think shit stink. Pink Gators, my Detroit players. Tim's for my hooligans in Brooklyn. Dead right, if the head right, Biggie there every night. Papa been smooth since days of under rules. Never lose, never choose to. Bruce Cruz who? Do something to us. Talk goes through us. Girls want to us, wanna do us. Screw us, who us? Yeah, Papa and Pump. Close like Starsky and Hutch. Stick to clutch. Yeah, I squeeze 3 at your cherry M3. Bang every MC easily. Recently, niggas frontin' ain't saying nothing, so I just speak my peace. Keep my peace. Cubans with the Jesus peace. With my peace. Packing, asking who want it. You got it, nigga, flaunt it. That Brooklyn bullshit, we on it.
Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake.
I put hoes in NY onto DKNY. Miami, DC, prefer Versace.
That's right.
All Philly hoes know it's Moschino. Every cutie with the booty, boy, the coochie. Now who's the real dookie? Meaning who's really the shit? Them niggas ride dicks. Frank White push the 6 or the Lexus LX 4.5. Bulletproof glass tints if I want some ass. Gon' blast squeeze first, ask questions last. That's how most of these so-called gangsters pass. At last, a nigga rapping about blunts and broads, tits and bras, menage a trois, sex and expensive cars, and still leave you on the pavement. Condo paid for, no car payment. At my arraignment, note for the plaintiff. Your daughter's tied up in the Brooklyn basement. Face it, not guilty. That's how I stay still. Richer than richer, so you niggas come and get me. Come on.
Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake.
I can fill you with real millionaire shit. That's cargo, my cargo. 160, swiftly. Wreck it by your new one. Your crew run, your crew run. I know you sick of this name brand nigga with flows. Girl, stay heat, sweet like licorice. So get with this, nigga, it's easy. Girlfriend, here's a pin. Call me round 10, come through, have sex on rugs, that's Persian. Come up to your job, hit you while you're working, for certain. Papa freaking, not speaking, leave that ass leaking like rapper demo. Tell them who, take their clothes off slowly. Kill them with the force like Obi, dick black like Kobe, watch me roam like Romy. Lucky they don't owe me, where to say, show me, homie.
Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake. Biggie, 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 can't you see? Sometimes your words just hypnotize me. And I just love your flashy ways. Guess that's why they're broken, you're so fake.
Notorious B.I.G. Hypnotize, gekozen door Rahim. Daya, onze hero deze middag van 12 tot 1. We luisteren naar delen van het gesprek, Sebastian, dat jij had met Rahim. Wat wilde je nog weten van hem?
Ja, Rahim is al deels ingegaan hoe dat ze bepaalde nieuwe technologieën matchen met de gebruikers. En ik was benieuwd hoe dat ze daar verder mee aan de slag gaan met die machine learning features om die tot de eindgebruiker te brengen.
And I assume, and when you're working on these incremental changes, that the communication of this performance of these ML features is also important. Do you have a certain strategy that you use, to communicate the performances, whether they're positive or negative, towards internal stakeholders?
Yes, there's two ways that will communicate the performance of the machine learning features. First, we'll use the standard measurements setups. This is primarily more for the engineering team to understand how they want to apply success or failure to the efforts. And so we'll measure precision, recall, and accuracy, which are the primary ways that machine learning models are evaluated. And so that tends to be the engineering evaluation, but it also tends to be a mark of quality for the work that's being done. So did we achieve the goals of the hypothesis that we started with? And then we need to evaluate whether that hypothesis is correct with our users. Showing success, though, to stakeholders outside the engineering team, the best way that I've found is a two-part data set. One is to show side-by-side qualitative examples. So based on that hypothesis, can we come up with examples of recommendations where we would expect a significant change? And then can we show that visually in a set of images to our counterparts? And then alongside that, I'll want to back that up with data. So let's say we were doing a particularly bad job of identifying a specific word. Like I'll give you an example from international product. The word for a specific vegetable called zucchini in the US, most people will use the word zucchini. In the UK, despite it also being an English-speaking market, they tend to use the word courgette, which is more commonly the French word for the same vegetable, but that's how it's commonly sold there. And so there'll be a difference between those. And one of the things we were working on in our recommendations is understanding that even though we classify that with our word classifiers as a French word, and it is also an English word for the purposes of British speaking English. And it is not a correct term in US speaking English, and vice versa for the term zucchini. And so we were able to show that before, if someone would search courgette in the UK, they would get a lot of results that had the term zucchini in it, and that would confuse some users. So we could show that, hey, now all of the results show the word courgette in it, and we have more local recipes as a result. But then what I can then show is I can show 4 searches for courgette. We also have more clicks. And so I've combined both a qualitative view and then shown how that qualitative view extends over the entire user base.
Okay, that's very interesting. Maybe we first zoomed in a bit on how discovery process in regards to machine learning features happened. Maybe it's an interesting turn to now look at how the delivery or your views on delivery for machine learning features. First of all, do you have a certain vision or experience into how the user experience design, product design, machine learning, and software development all fit together from an operational perspective?
Yeah, I think it's important for all of those functionalities to work together in order to develop the product. And overall, we won't start from the technical aspects. We're going to start from what is the user need that we're seeing within the experience, and then why. And we generally want to make sure that the entire team is coordinated on that. I get very excited as a product manager if my engineers can sort of parrot back to me the top needs of our users, because that means that they've internalized exactly where the pain points are. And then they can take their expertise and really generate new improvements to the product that will help our users. So we'll usually start from the user side and then start to see how the technology or the technologies that we have can start to address those problems, and then focus in on the set of problems that we can fix. And usually for your users, there's a whole swath of problems that you're looking to address, but there's going to be a subset that the technology can solve and a subset that the technology cannot solve. And so it's important to go prioritize out exactly what we can solve, and start to focus all of our engineering efforts on that. And so usually we'll have a set of problems in the entire problem space, and then we'll start to understand, okay, some of these are to solve, but they're not perspective in the sense that they can do this, for example, on the internet or on their computer. And that's usually the user experience team driving some of that thought process. And then what can we feasibly do from an engineering perspective, in the sense that we have the data, we have the ability to actually execute on this vision. It's cost feasible to execute on this vision. And like, we have enough servers, for example, to actually do the computations for this. All of those things are going into the process, and then we can prioritize out the problems and start to address the ones that we can actually solve.
Yeah. So I imagine, as you said before, that ML engineers are indeed fitted in these cross competence teams. So I can imagine that the different roles and the different backgrounds all have a certain knowledge in regards to machine learning, what its capabilities are, what its feats are. Do you have any ideas into how the ML gospel is spread in a successful way in an organization?
I think for myself, the machine learning is spread throughout an organization by making sure that the rest of the organization understands the high level concept of what the technology can and cannot do, and really understanding where it applies to your overall business. So there's going to be areas of success that machine learning is going to have to the business, your current business, and there's going to be areas of where it's not the right solution. And really understanding where those lines lie and where its advantages sit is going to be really important. So the biggest thing that I evangelize to the teams outside of engineering on machine learning is really that machine learning is very good when we have large data sets. And we want to understand areas where there is a lot of pattern matching, because machine learning is very good when you have large data sets that show patterns. And then machine learning is good at amplifying or reflecting that understanding. And then the rule of thumb that I tend to give to our non-technical teams is machine learning can usually solve a problem if a human could go and solve that effectively also. So generally, if you can't find someone to go solve this problem directly, there's a very small chance that we can teach a machine learning algorithm to do it. Now, the advantage that the machine learning algorithm gives is it can do it for a much lower cost and it can do it much more consistently. But it cannot do something that a human can't do. And so a good example of this that they've shown applied to machine learning is being able to read medical scans. If you can't find a radiologist that could read that effectively, you're not going to be able to teach the machine learning algorithm to do it well. But the machine learning algorithm might be able to do it faster in seconds rather than half an hour with a radiologist. And they might be more able to make less mistakes. And so that solves for problems like I don't have an expert radiologist available in my smaller hospital, but in the bigger hospital, I've had this person share their knowledge.
Well, the radiology example is actually a quite interesting example for my next question, my follow-up question. At In the Pocket, we believe that the machine learning algorithm performance is only one part of the equation. The user interface and the user experience is an essential part to giving a good result and also exposing these results in the right way. Are there any efforts that you guys do in regards to, for instance, product designers to help them better match the machine learning capabilities with the design and how to communicate predictions into bringing a good user experience in essence?
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing for user experience with machine learning tends to be, can we accurately gather data from the user? So making mistakes when you gather information from the user is fairly detrimental. An example of this is if I were to go into an app and just simply change my gender, you would get a distinctly different set of results. And so that mistake alone could completely change a new user's experience within the product and affect whether they stop using the product versus continue using the product. And then the second thing is users don't like providing a ton of information. So being able to infer information is also important. And those are areas where the user experience team can really help out because one of the things that is important to user experience is our ability to gather information, understand the user. And so making sure that we can do that effectively is generally not a machine learning problem. It's a user experience problem in how to effectively have inputs that are non-intrusive, but also accurate.
Ja, dus Rahim zegt dat het belangrijk is om binnen organisaties mensen vanuit verschillende rollen toch echt in staat te stellen om in te kunnen schatten waar machine learning goed in is en waarin niet. Is het dan iets waar In the Pocket naast jullie klanten ook intern op inzet, Sebastiaan?
Ja, volledig. Hè. Ik sluit mij volledig aan bij die mening. En dat is iets wat wij ook al lang zeggen. We proberen daar uiteraard onze collega's vanuit verschillende rollen ook warm voor te maken. Wij organiseren crashcourses voor onze engineers, maar ook het feit dat we in de product practice en de strategy practice daar ook echt wel energie in steken vanuit die achtergrond. Zorgt ervoor dat we binnen de pockets heel breed wel echt voedingsbodem beginnen te krijgen voor machine learning.
Oké, zometeen nog twee fijne gesprekken, twee fijne stukken liever uit dat gesprek met Rahim, Daya.
Studio Shift. Our heroes.
I'll send a pack of cigarettes and some chocolates. Hope you get feel love for you.
Oh, my love, I hope we listen to be at home and get close to you. For now, we'll wait for some news to go home. My mind is always on your side. I see you all the time with love for you.
Goedemiddag, het is wat 23 voor 1. Je bent al goed vooruit in die middag. En ook in ons gesprek in Our Heroes, een held van In The Pocket, Rahim, Daya, waar jij mee gesproken hebt, Sebastiaan. Waarover gaat het in het volgende stuk?
Ja, in het volgende stuk gaan we meer inzoomen hoe dat we, of hoe dat Rahim, beter gezegd, binnen Pinterest gaat prioritiseren in die novel technologies die ze vinden met machine learning. Want die technologie inzetten om een probleem van een gebruiker op te lossen is één ding. Maar je gaat altijd met beperkte resources te maken hebben. Dus je moet daar wel een prioritisatie aan geven aan waar je effort in steekt. En de balans tussen incrementele verbeteringen en eerder batch improvements, dat is iets waar dat zij heel fel op volgen. Dus daar gaat hij nu even op inzoomen.
Let's go back a little bit to the delivery of machine learning features. Is there a certain way that you handle the inherent uncertainties that are that are always present with machine learning features from a product management point of view? Is there a certain minimum viable performance that you use, or these uncertainties are in my experience much higher than the uncertainties you traditionally have in traditional software development? I'm very interested to hear how do you handle with those uncertainties?
Are you referring to like the uncertainty of building a product and having it be successful? Or?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Because you're not always sure at the beginning of the development of a product that it will indeed result in the desired outcome that you have put up front.
So I think the uncertainties are that most machine learning projects will end up failing in some way or another. And end up being a learning as opposed to a functionality that you add.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tend to balance it when we're working on machine learning projects in two ways. One is we're looking for incremental improvements. Incremental improvements tend to be more reliable. So I try to make sure that our product slate or like our product plan involves roughly 80% incremental improvements. This will be different if you're an early startup, but if you're a more established company like Pinterest, most of our work is incremental improvements, and we're really looking for 10.5% improvements that will get us to 5%, as opposed to a single improvement that will move the needle on a major metric by 5%. Okay. Then we'll specifically look for bets that, and the remaining 20% of our projects will be focused on. Here are 3 or 4 projects that we think are promising that could apply to a major new problem that we don't address well. And then I'll generally rely on only 1, maybe 2 of those being successful. And so what you'll want to do is over the course of a quarter or half, start to invest in those projects and start to see which ones are showing good preliminary offline results, or in an initial experiment, good online results. And then you start to pick your likely winners and then drop other projects in favor of really investing in the user feedback and testing, A/B testing, to start to improve it, to get it to a quality where you could launch it to the overall user base. So it's a combination of bets and incremental improvements. And it's important to have both, because generally incremental improvements have diminishing returns over the life of a model. And so having those bets are the only way that you're going to drastically improve or continue large growth rates in terms of functionality.
We help our clients, of course, also develop or conceptualize features or products with machine learning components. And oftentimes, we don't have the luxury to start from this incremental point of view, but we think of a whole new concept, a whole new product, a whole new angle to approach a certain problem. And these uncertainties, of course, are a much bigger deal, because we often have to help our clients find the proper funding within the company. And often what that results in is kind of this chicken or the egg situation, where the internal stakeholders first wanted to see proof before they receive further funding, but we need this funding to provide this proof, and that is something that is often something very challenging that we have to help our clients with. Do you have any tips or some experiences that you maybe could share with me to better help our clients with these struggles?
So I think the biggest thing that you can do is 2 parts. One, to explore, do you really need machine learning? And can these problems be solved by other algorithms? Oftentimes, if you're not meeting the bars of having clean, large data sets, and then you're also not meeting the bar of this is something that an expert human can really answer, sometimes algorithms can work much better. To really evaluate whether an algorithm could be the right solution. This is especially like if you are going into a company and they have a rules-based system that works quite well, you might end up in a situation where a machine learning algorithm doesn't really deliver much higher quality than that. And really the lines for machine learning is machine learning tends not to increase past 90% accuracy. Like it's more rare to see models perform at that level. And they tend to really hit their sweet spot of like a really well-performing model starts in the 70% range and gets up to the high 80% range. But if you have a rules-based algorithm that's 79% right, the chances of a machine learning algorithm in that investment yielding big gains is not very high, because a well-performing or like hitting it out of the park will mean that ML algorithm will work 85, 88% of the time. That gain, that 10% gain, I don't know if that's worth the investment versus using that money elsewhere. And then the second thing is trying to solve problems that have already been solved. It's important to just start with what everyone knows or is a solved problem and start to apply those, because those are going to be the low-hanging fruit. And it's important not to drive towards developing a new patentable technology and coming up with something that is totally experimental. There's a ton of machine learning problems that are already solved that you could leverage almost immediately to make improvements. So good examples are image recognition, being able to do ranking, being able to do comparison between different types of entities, primarily text, images, and video. All of those are largely, they're not solved problems, but they're high accuracy problems that you can follow open source functionality and models on. And so using those solutions and applying those first to the set of user problems you have will get you to a very good performing solution quickly.
Klinkt logisch wat hij zegt, maar dus ja, het inschatten van de haalbaarheid van bepaalde ML-features op voorhand blijkt dan toch wel essentieel voor het slagen van een ML-project.
Ja, inderdaad. Dus ik vind het wel heel interessant dat hij ook die cut-off op die 80-20, 80% incremental improvement, 20% bets. En ja, op zich, ik denk dat gezonde denkpiste is, zeker voor een established product als Pinterest. En ja, wij zien dat bij ons ook, de projectaanvragen die we zien binnenkomen, dat die misschien eerder in die 50-50 verdeling zitten. En dat eigenlijk ook een beetje onze taak is om toch alsnog met onze klanten op zoek te gaan naar die incremental improvements, omdat we daar allicht op kortere termijn meer mee gaan bereiken ten opzichte van hun huidige processen die er leven.
Wat bijsturen naar de realiteitszin, om het dan zo maar even uit te drukken, inderdaad. Ja. Er is nog een laatste stuk van je gesprek met Rahim. Waar gaat dat laatste over?
Ja, in het laatste stuk wil ik eigenlijk een beetje inzoomen hoe dat Rahim vanuit een software engineering achtergrond toch de weg heeft gevonden naar product management en dan eerder richting machine learning product management. Wat dat voor hem, ik ben ook wel heel benieuwd wat dat voor hem een goede skill is om te bezitten als ML product manager ten opzichte van misschien een meer traditionelere product manager. En tenslotte pols ik ook nog even naar zijn mening over hoe dat hij ML in de nabije toekomst de hype ziet overstijgen.
Maybe just to start wrap this interview up. You said that you come from an engineering background and you transitioned into the product management activities some 9 years ago. Can you tell me what led you to pursue this more product management pathway?
Yeah, so there's sort of two parts to how I ended up in product and moved over from engineering. The first one is through projects that I'd worked on as a software engineer and doing programming. I actually got my start building custom trading software for banks in New York. And when I was working there, I started to realize that there are oftentimes a lot of improvements that we can make if we better understood the user, as opposed to the technology or making the perfect product and making the perfect flow. And so an example of this is I used to work on proprietary trading software for the banks. So they would build their own trading system in order to incorporate algorithms into their functionality. And this is right about when algorithms started to take a big step on proprietary trading desks. One of the things I noticed is they were very interested in being able to do things like order execution quickly. But they would have these big clunky interfaces. And so oftentimes the process to input an order was 2 or 3 or 8 steps.
Okay.
And I realized, like, if I could make this 1 step or 2 steps, that would save so much human time, like on the order of seconds, that it would be massive in comparison to, a process improvement that would shave 50 milliseconds off of an order processing.
Yeah.
And so I became very interested in the user experience side. I also learned that I enjoyed talking to people about their user problems and trying to understand what helped and didn't help. And as a result, I ended up becoming friendly with some of the customers, and we ended up getting some software wins as a result. So I just understood that I was good at working with users, and that was a way that I could help my team. And then I also found the problems to be particularly interesting, to try to bridge the technology and the user problems together, as opposed to just trying to solve on one side of the fence and really just focusing on just the technology or just the user problem. Because really finding those magical interactions where you say, hey, this technology is really useful for this type of problem, and hey, you have that type of problem, now I can bring those together. That was particularly interesting to me. And so that got my interest in the product. And then the second part of it was also, I started to realize that if I was going to become a senior engineer, I really needed to be obsessed with programming. Mm-hmm. And while I enjoy programming a lot, I wasn't obsessed in the same way that I was with my counterparts. And so I had a friend that I used to spend a lot of time with on my team. And every Wednesday, he would have something called Heads Down Wednesday, where he would go home, eat dinner very quickly, and then spend 7 p.m. to midnight programming on other projects after spending the entire day programming.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was not the type of person to do that. Mm-hmm. And I started to realize that soon he was going to have years of programming on me. Yeah. And when it came to promotion and things like that, it was going to be much harder for me. So I started to realize I was much better than him at the product side. He was much better than me on the engineering side. And it made sense to invest in a career path where I thought I could be the most successful and where I could be very competitive.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And did you see a change in when you moved more towards product management and engineering wasn't your main day job? Did you see a transition into wanting to do more pet projects when you're your product manager, because coding wasn't your day job anymore, and you maybe felt that you had revived the passion in engineering from a pastime perspective, or
now I want to do more programming related work, and I especially like a lot of data related work. Mm-hmm. In digging through data. Mm-hmm. So I still want to keep that side of me useful and constantly be learning about what's happening on the technology side. Mm-hmm. But I've found the ability to spend my day working across different functionalities, I actually find quite interesting. And so it adds more variety to my day than I would in a programming job. I enjoy working with our legal team on some of the problems there, trying to get patents processed for the team. Right now, I'm helping opening up the engineering office, so we're focusing a lot on hiring and making sure we have the right talent. Yeah. And so those are all interesting problems to me alongside. And so, I'm more excited to do the programming or the technical work that I do in a day, because it's a part of my day as opposed to the entirety of my day. And so, I've been able to apply that muscle a lot better.
Okay, cool. For me, I also transitioned from a more technical focus in regards to machine learning to the product management focus. But I also want to encourage my product manager colleagues to also look towards machine learning and incorporate the machine learning skills into their day-to-day activities. Do you have any insights into what an important skill is for a product manager to have? A machine learning product manager.
So I would say the most important skill, I'm going to make this sort of two parts, but they go together. One is the ability to dig through and process data. So I would say the ability to understand data in similar ways to a data scientist and really manipulate the data is going to be important, because being able to dig through information is key to understanding, especially things like A/B experiments. Yeah. And so in the same way that a front-end PM should be very good at doing user research and talking to customers, I think a machine learning product manager, it's important to be able to dig through the data and understand patterns within the data. And if you can't pull that for yourself, you end up being disconnected with your user.
Yeah.
And then the second one is to be able to take data and make narratives or stories around that data. And so if you can turn that a set of data into this is what the user is doing and why, and to be able to tell that qualitative story in a single instance, but then carry that over to the larger data set, that's really important to help bring in other functions. Because if you have a lot of data, it becomes very technical and it's hard for people to understand the overall patterns, but also the statistics behind it. So being able to turn that into a specific person doing something is really good from the narrative perspective, because that helps non-technical folks understand a specific example that they can then say, oh, well, this is what's happening a million times over.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's a great answer. Maybe just one more question to wrap this interview up. We've seen a lot of hype surrounding machine learning over the past decade, I would say, but we slowly but surely see a transition into machine learning becoming a more established technology. Do you have any views into how machine learning could become an inherent part of software development over the couple of years, in regards to being just one of the technologies in your tool belt, and not being this hype thing that it has been the past decade, I would say?
Yeah, I think machine learning is still actually, the hype is a lot farther along than I think the actual functionality is. A lot of machine learning is in my mind, unnecessary machine learning.
Yeah.
One of the models that I've used to kind of think about this is, how do you find a good machine learning engineer? And usually new technologies start with, there's a few people in academia or a specific set of researchers that understand the concept. That will extend down to, there are a number of schools that can develop that specific concept and understand how to do it well. And then it becomes democratized into, there are numbers and large amounts of academic institutions that are able to share it. And then it steps down to anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So it moves into, the high school or middle school, or anyone with sort of an education can do that. And so I still feel like we're in the realm where only a select set of institutions can effectively apply this technology. And so we still haven't democratized it to everyone in the way that programming is now. You can go to a community college, you can go to a set of online programs and actually effectively learn programming. We're still not there yet with machine learning, where a lot of people are making mistakes. And so what you see in a lot of machine learning, and what we're learning, is there's a lot of errors because people don't know how to create clean data and develop reliable models. And they oftentimes will do things like use low quality data or distributed data, and do things like extend bias within data, or show very limited gains over existing algorithms. And so those types of problems, I think there still needs to be a lot of education on. And I think that the biggest steps that we're going to be able to make to do this is, we haven't built the tool set to allow people to get away from the statistics of it. So I think the biggest step for machine learning is helping people solve some of the problems that they're not going to be able to learn. I don't think everyone's going to get a statistical degree to work on machine learning. So understanding how to clean data and understanding how to test models, those technologies really need to show up in order to make it more effective. And this is sort of akin to when debuggers were really bad, it was really hard to be a programmer. And now that debuggers are much better, there's a lot of people that can make simple mistakes and we can correct those effectively. Whereas if you went back 40 years, that would mean that you have a memory leak. you have a piece of software that's not going to work, and then you run into a number of problems. So we still need to make better tooling so that the average person can make an effective model right now.
Okay, I totally agree. I think indeed that the democratization of machine learning will eventually result in machine learning being at the same level of traditional software engineering in regards to accessibility and making it widespread.
Heel interessante stukken uit dat gesprek van jou, Sebastian, met Rahim Daya. Dankjewel om erover te komen vertellen ook, vooral.
Met veel plezier.
Ja.
Dat was fijn om te doen.
Ons shiftprogramma gaat nog door tot 5:00. Dan eindigen we normaal. Maar vandaag gaat er nog iets extra bij komen. Waar jij ook voor gaat zorgen, Sebastian.
Ja, ik ga rond 5:00 een elektronisch setje doen met wat modular synths en andere apparatuur. Ik ben benieuwd wat dat er gaat uitkomen en wat dat de collega's en de luisteraars ervan gaan vinden.
We zijn allemaal benieuwd wat er gaat uitkomen straks, Sebastian. Okay,
als er iets uitkomt.
Dat gaat sowieso lukken. We gaan dit blok afsluiten met TLC. Jij wilde graag nog No Scrubs er even in.
Ja, absoluut. Ik heb mij laten vertellen dat de 90s helemaal terug zijn. En aangezien dat Rahim al een 90s track van formaat heeft gekozen, dacht ik van ik ga gewoon een van de arguably beste 90s hits kiezen.
Absoluut. Alles komt altijd terug eigenlijk. Hè?
Absoluut.
Sebastian, dankjewel.
Studio Shift. Our heroes.
A scrub is a guy that thinks he's flying, is also known as a buster. Always talking about what he wants and just sits on his broke ass. So no, I don't want your number. No, I don't wanna give you mine, and no, I don't wanna meet you nowhere. No, don't want none of your time, and no, I don't want no scrub. A scrub is the guy that can't get no love from me, hanging on the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is the guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. Checking me, but his game is kinda weak, and I know that he cannot approach me, 'cause I'm looking like class and he's looking like trash. Can't get with a deadbeat ass. So no, I don't want your number. No, I don't wanna give you mine, and no, I don't wanna meet you nowhere. No, don't want none of your time. No, I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. You don't have a car and you're walking. Oh yes, son, I'm talking to you. If you live at home with your mama. Oh yes, son, I'm talking to you. If you have a shorty that you don't show love. Oh yes, son, I'm talking to you. Wanna get with me with no money? Oh no, I don't want no scrub. No scrub. No, no. No, 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 no. No, no. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy that can't get no love from me, hanging out the passenger side of his best friend's ride, trying to holler at me.
Goeie keuze van Sebastian, want TLC is eigenlijk altijd wel een goede keuze. No Scrubs, intussen is het een paar minuten over 1. Goedemiddag.
Studio Shift. No siesta. No siesta.
En elke middag van 1 tot 2 gaat een collega van In The Pocket live in de mix voor jou om die namiddagdip tegen te gaan, om wat energie te geven. Wat je ook nodig hebt om die namiddag goed door te komen. Goeie muziek, die ga je krijgen het komende uur live in de mix door Lien de Buk. Dus geniet er vooral van, maak er een fijne namiddag van.
Studio Shift. No siesta.